Hello, everyone. My name is Oddimus Prime, and I'm joined by my illustrious co-host, Primetime Moff. And whether you're watching us or indeed listening to us, we welcome you to our weekly show, Transformers 84 to 24, 40 years of rolling out. In the year of the Transformers brand's 40th anniversary, we look back at the vast history of the Transformers. If you're new to the show, we'll be covering each year of the franchise in its own weekly episode, with special episodes throughout the year. So please like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications to ensure you do not miss anything on this incredible journey. And now we move to 1998, the third year of the Beast Wars. Moff, how are you doing?
I am very well and very excited about talking about this year of Transformers and specifically the Wars of the Beasts.
It is. It's a fun period of time to be talking about. We've already had 2 weeks worth of talking about this already, but it's so weird because I always think of myself as more of a G1er, but since we've been talking about Beast Wars, I feel so much more excited about it. Maybe because it's slightly fresher, but I don't know. It was a really interesting time for the brand, and this year we get that old trope from Transformers, which is take your concept and give it more gimmicks. Because yes, that's a very, very Transformers thing to do. And I think actually in this particular case with the Beast War stuff, they did it really, really, really well. But we'll get onto that when we get to toys. So let's have a quick look at what was going on in 1998. What was going on in 1998, Moff?
I think actually before we get into that, your point there around considering yourself a G1er and how you feel about this, and I absolutely consider myself a G1 person. That's my focus. That's probably 90% of my collection is G1. My collection goal when I think about it is about G1. But I have such a fondness for this period, and I think it's because it's the first time I would say I was an adult collector, or not even an adult. I was only 18, but I was a collector of toys rather than, as a kid I just got whatever Santa brought me or my parents brought me. I didn't. We would get to pick our main present. But over and above that, we just got whatever came. Whereas this is the first time period where I really started to collect things. At this point, it was kind of Power of Force, and then the Transmetals were a toy that just captivated me to a level that I don't think I've ever really had since. And I think also, nowadays you buy your toys, you do the wonderful thing of going to wonderful websites like primetimetoys.co.uk. Easy plug. But you're buying your toys online. It's not the same as back at this point. I was hunting down the toys by going to Toys R Us, and there's a lot more toy shops on the high street. I was in university in Glasgow, able to go to real toy shops and see what I could pick up. And I think that's probably why I have such a fondness for it. A, the toys are outstanding. B, the cartoon is fantastic. But C, the experience of collecting the Transmetal stuff and Beast Wars was such a pleasure and is probably what I would love Transformer collecting to be like more now. The highlight for me recent years has been going to toy fairs and going to real shops and picking things up. The online isn't quite the same vibe. So I think that's why I kind of look back at this period being such a highlight.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on that one. I distinctly remember this period of time very, very fondly because, as you say, I hadn't twigged. It was Power of the Force. It was next year you got the Phantom Menace. Actually, I think probably the end of this year, beginning of next year anyway. The Phantom Menace toys and buying Star Wars figures at that time was a really, really big thing for me as well. So I was
Mm-hmm.
sort of switching between Transformers and Star Wars, and Beast Wars was still there, and it was something I was very interested in getting, and I'll talk a few more about some of the figures I got at the time later. But yeah, it was just so nice going into toy shops and actually hunting for different things and knowing things you wanted to get and going through all the shelves and stuff like that. And these days, where the whole focus on collecting these days seems to be purely on pre-ordering based on a few images and maybe the odd YouTube video, but nobody gets it into hand until about 3 months later, which isn't a different thing from however it was before. But the whole it's become a lost art. Going to the shops and going to I remember the distinct joy not even that long ago of going to Toys R Us in Medway near where I am and finding a full wave of Transformers Generation Deluxes or whichever ones they were at the time. It was the Scourge wave from a fair few years ago now when it was the Flying Wing, but they had the whole wave in the shop and I was so excited and bought all of them even though I could definitely not afford it at the time. But I just don't find that now. I go to toy shops, but I very, very rarely buy anything because if it's something I want, I would have pre-ordered it already. And
Yeah.
half the stuff doesn't even make it to the toy shops over here. Sad times. But anyway, let's go back to the positives. So 1998, we've got the two new sublines for Transformers Beast Wars was the Fusors and the Transmetals, which was lots of fun, very interesting concepts. And as we've mentioned in our previous episodes, we are focusing primarily on the Western releases of the Transformers. And although this is quite a thing during G1, it wasn't quite as diverse as it got later. I mean, we had pretty much skipped over a lot of the Japanese releases that have happened recently in like Master Force and all that sort of stuff. But now we're getting onto things like Beast Wars Second and things from there onwards. Car robots, for example, in a couple of years. And we're going to more or less ignore them. Not that we don't think that they're worth talking about. Quite the opposite. We think they're worth talking about so much that would probably dictate an entire episode or 2 episodes to it. But we can't actually afford to do that. So instead, we will be pretending, well, not pretending they don't exist, but not really talking about them too much. We have said Beast Wars Second happened. It has some absolutely bonkers releases that start to show up within the Beast Wars Second and the other later Beast Wars Japanese line, and they stick all sorts of mashed together G1, G2, bit of Beast Wars, all sorts of fun stuff. But again, not going to talk any more about that. We're going to stick with Beast Wars as is its incarnation in the Western sphere. Anything I've missed? Oh yes. So for the cartoon this year, we had season 2, the latter half of season 2, and the beginning of season 3. Season 2, much like season 1, ended on a cliffhanger, and this one was a doozy.
Oh yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, this is the interest. But we talked there about, at the beginning about, we class ourselves as G1s. Beast Wars is G1.
Well, yes, yes.
Beast Wars is G1. Like Optimus Prime's in it, like the real Optimus Prime. And obviously we're talking about the aspect of the Beast Wars cast find the Ark, and Beast Wars Megatron is determined to blow Optimus out the water and kill him. And it's just such a crazy aspect of, you think about the 3 years. So we're at the point where we're getting the third season of the show, and we're going to have 3 versions of Optimus Primal having 3 toys and 3, like when we first talked about Beast Wars, we talked about it keeping the cast small, and it still manages to do that, but still keeps, let's give new gimmicks to give new toys to sell things in really clever ways. And we saw the characters appear So the Transmetals appeared at the start of season 2, and then in this one we kind of see the kind of third versions of them. Um, Transmetals 2, Transmetal 2s and Fusors and things like that. You see them kind of more come through. I love the end of season 2 and beginning of season 3. I thought it was a great arc.
Yeah.
I thought the aspect of Optimus Primal taking Optimus Prime's spark. Well, that's a tongue twister, isn't it? And that's what evolves into the next phase of his story. I think was fantastic. I thought it was a really good way to do it. It was a fun thing that you're 1997 when or sorry, 1988. I'm saying 97, 98, and you're bringing back to Optimus Prime. It's 14 years, like 14 years since Optimus Prime was first on the screens. So it's not as if it's huge. It's not like now if they were to bring something back now and tie it straight into G1 Optimus or Megatron, we'd be blown away. Everything now is inspired by, but that directly went, let's link it in.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really fun way to do it. It obviously, the premise of the story for the beginning was that it was kind of tied in, but it was almost like, is it? Because this is now going before 1984, time jumps, all these kind of bits. I didn't see it coming
No.
when they kind of went for the arc. I thought it was a really good twist and just adds to what, again, for me, I think the Beast Wars cartoon is right up there as one of the best. And I don't know how much more I can say that just doesn't tell how much I absolutely love Beast Wars.
Yeah, that whole several parter that sort of crossed between season 2 and season 3, it had everything. It had golden discs. It had Megatron being killed by Megatron. It had confirmation of the fact that the Beast Wars characters are absolutely tiny compared to their G1 counterparts, which is always a bit weird to get your head round, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
suppose if they're supposed to be the same size as the animals they turn into, that makes sense. And you had Optimus Prime being asleep at the Ark. A nice little dig from Primal about Diecast, which is
Oh yes,
such a
yes.
great
I
little
always
line.
What is it? It's a
It's a
lost
lost
art
art,
or
yeah.
something like that. Oh,
Diecast
brilliant.
technology, it's a lost art. And the arc, obviously, and it tied directly into G1 and made you sort of really firmly go, oh, this is all the same continuity. This is all the same stuff. I mean, we'd seen Unicron, and sort of seen Unicron, and we'd had sort of talks of Autobots and Decepticons, but this was like, yes, this is still our Transformers. And yeah, it's a great little story, and it ends up with people getting new bodies as per the way. And Optimal Optimus and did the Fusors come about at the same time? I forget
Yeah,
if it's a direct result of what they do in that episode
I'm
or
sure
not.
it is. Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Uh,
But not all come straight away, if I remember correctly. But
yeah,
yeah, it's clearly a marketing ploy to sell new toys, and as we said, throwing in gimmicks. The Fusers gimmick is crazy, wacky, wonderful, and like the other years, there are some beautiful toys that never made it onto the show, but there's also beautiful toys based on the show as well. So I think it's a great mix at this point where they've managed to not just do generic things off the screen, and throw them on. Some of the Beast Wars Fuser stuff are absolutely fantastic. And then, one of my absolute favourite Transmetals toys is not based on a character from the show. It's taking an original character and making her Transmetal, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And we'll talk about that when we get into the kind of figures. But yeah, it's a great period. As I say, I think the storytelling of Beast Wars is fantastic. The way it arcs through. Each season had that peak. It starts off with the fallout of the previous season, and then leads into what does the end of this season look like? It's story arcs, a lot bigger story arcs, a lot of things intertwining throughout, and calling back to previous episodes that we never saw in the original Transformers. It certainly was written more. I mean, there is goofy bits, of course. There's goofy bits. It's
Yeah.
Transformers. It's a kid's show still, of course, but it certainly starts to have a bit more adult writing, and we see more of that as we go through the years. But yeah, the show hits a peak at this point. I really enjoy this period.
Yeah, pretty much everything you've just said. It's having an overarching storyline and having a storyline that it felt like it was thought out. It felt like that the insertion of the different types of modes and the different gimmicks of the fusors and the transmetals and even the transmetals too. It didn't feel like it was a shoehorned in aspect of the cartoon. It always felt like it was a logical progression of the way the story was going, because they crafted the story around those rather than just had, hey, there's a new Transformer that's turned up and he's got different modes for some reason. And then some of the characters that turn up who have the additional stuff, that's because that's when they arrived in the situation. So, but we'll get onto those in a minute. Anyway, let's I'm going to get this down to a fine art now of doing this and doing that. And now, magically, my screen is shared. So let's actually work quite well. Well done, me. So we'll go through the toys. We'll do this a little bit quicker than we normally do, and focus on the
There's
ones that
so
we
many more,
really
isn't
like.
there? So many
Exactly.
more.
And it's only going to get worse as well. Just wait until we get to mini cons.
Oh,
Um, so we have the classes again from the previous years. So basic class this year we're entirely fusors. The fusor concept being you take one animal and you combine it with another animal and it makes an animal. Some of them were a bit more weird and out there, and some of them were a bit more, I don't know how to put it. Didn't really make much of a difference.
yeah.
So for the Maximals, we had Airhammer, who was a shark and an eagle and is very obviously weird.
and wonderful.
Oh yeah, no,
I,
don't get me wrong,
I,
he's
I love it.
amazing.
Again,
Yeah,
I am such a fan of this stuff. Just the basics. I said this with the first wave. The basics are so fun. Like they're
yeah,
fun. Um, I don't know. There's more you can say about them being for the price of them.
yeah,
They're a great wee toy set of toys,
yeah.
and they're
No,
not that expensive to pick up now. It's not as if they're crazy money. They're still fairly reasonable. They're not the price they were when they first came out, but they're not expensive.
yeah, no. Most of the Beast Wars stuff is actually pretty accessible. You can get it for reasonable prices, which is lovely. So moving on, we had Bantor, who was a mandrill or a baboon, with a, what else was he with? I mean, he pretty much just looks like an ape.
Yeah, with a lion maybe. I can't remember.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe a tiger because he's orange. I forget.
Yeah.
I could have looked it up. I didn't. Buzzclaw, who is a praying mantis crossed with lizard.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, some kind of lizard. But I mean, really kind of just looks like a praying mantis with big feet. But that's fine. Noctoro, who is a cross between a bat and a bull, which is amazing. Sorry, Noctoro is a maximal. Buzzclaw is a Predacon, I believe. Noctoro, yeah, again, his alt mode, he looks pretty much like a bat, but with horns, which is fine. I'm going to skip over one and just go to Terrogator, who was, well, a snapping turtle crossed with an alligator, I think.
Yeah.
Who really reminds me of is it Tucker or Razor?
I was
Tucker.
thinking the exact same.
He's
Really
very
does.
Yeah, he's very Turtles because he's got kind of a bit of a Leatherhead vibe, but he's also got
Yeah,
which one's is it? Tucker was the Razor was the werewolfy one, I think.
yeah,
I
yeah.
forget.
I think you're right.
But anyway, yeah, just reminds me of that. He's awesome. And again, we've got these pictures from Transformerland, so these ones don't have bot mode, but that's fine. You can imagine or look them up yourselves. Easy peasy. And I can't remember why Terry Gator's legs are off in that picture. I assume he was a
Can't
bit
remember.
parts for me. But the one I want to quickly talk about a little bit more in depth is Quick Strike because he's absolutely amazing and I love him and
100%.
he's just oh, his character was great in the in the toon,
Yep.
and he's a snake crossed with a scorpion, and he looks just like a scorpion except for he's got a viper's head on his tail, and it's amazing. And that becomes one of his arms, and he's just awesome, and also great coloring.
Beautiful,
He's
beautiful colouring.
yeah,
Oh, what a toy! What a toy!
absolutely amazing. Let's move on to the
Before we move
deluxe.
on,
Oh, sorry.
we talked about gimmicks,
But
and you can think about gimmicks for that one. So they've just made it like more
I've
difficult
gone
for you, haven't I?
really, really far. There we go.
That's better. You talk
Edit that
about
bit out.
gimmicks. Quick
Gimmicks.
strikes, quick strikes tail shooting water.
Oh, of course, yes. I didn't even think of the
I
gimmicks.
totally forgot about it until I was listening to the Triple Takeover, and I was like, has that slipped out of my mind that it shoots water? What a toy that was for it being a basic class to have the beautiful translucent bits in it, for it to be so posable, then have a gimmick like that. What an absolute stonker, and as you said, he was the only one actually like these six that appears in the show, and he's by far the best of the six. The others aren't, none of the rest of them are bad. They're all kind of fun toys.
No, no, no.
But Quick Strike is an absolute amazing toy for its class.
That's another thing about the gimmicks in Beast Wars. As well as them obviously transforming, and then you have the different series with the transmetals and everything else. The other gimmicks and stuff weren't really made a big thing about. Like, even original Beast Wars Megatron, he squirted water out of his T-Rex head, but that wasn't like his gimmick. That wasn't the be all and end all of his existence. It wasn't like some of the
Yeah.
G1 ones that their gimmick was basically all they were. So yeah, I really like that about Beast Wars. Shall we move on to Deluxe now that I ruined the PowerPoint? Oosh! There we go.
Oh,
Okay, so let's just there. I'm just going to bask in their glory for a moment. There is some absolutely amazing toys in this line, but let's quickly go over the ones who are the upgraded versions of previous characters. So we've got Air Razor, Cheetor, Rat Trap, Rhinox, Tarantulas, Pterosaur, and Waspinator are all, we'll go on to Dinobot in a second, are all new versions of the existing characters. Which was really nice. And all of them are show characters, which is an
no, they're not.
interesting
Oh, well,
all of yeah, all of those
oh,
ones, all of
oh
the
yeah, yeah,
basic transmetals are show characters. Pterosaur never got his transmetal mode in the cartoon, I
no,
believe. He
no,
got
neither
fried
did
instead,
Waspinator,
and neither did Waspinator.
and neither did Rhinox.
And neither did
Did they
Airraiser.
raise her?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
they obviously decided on which characters to do this to based on the ones that were in the show because there's no other previous range characters have the transmetal gimmick done to them, not at this class.
yeah.
Obviously, Fusors were new characters anyway, and Silverbolt was obviously a mainstay of the show, and just one of the best toys ever. I absolutely
Oh,
love him. I should have had him
Silverbolt
as my
is
pick.
genuinely. Yeah, I like it's so hard. Like I said it the very first episode. This is when I was sitting planning out and we were chatting through the whole idea of this show. I sat and picked out pretty much my favourite toys through the full 40 years. And this was the hardest period because actually I can sit again on this page and go, yep, him. And the bit that we talk about gimmicks, so like in this one, Silverbolt's wings shooting out the his
Yeah.
missiles, brilliant. The Transmetal's one of my favourite bits, and again, just the right time, right nostalgia bit. The Transmetals for stuff that isn't talked about enough. The Transmetals having rub signs, hidden away. It's not as if they're like G1 where it's obvious. Like so, like Cheetor, I've got Cheetor in hand just now. You have to open his kind of wings up to go into his flying mode. And I suppose that's another point we haven't said that each of the Transmetals they have their robot mode, they have their beast mode, and then they have a vehicle mode. And
Yeah.
the rough
The triple
term of
changes.
vehicle
Yes.
yeah. I never even thought about triple changes, but yeah, to have then a rub sign in them is just outstanding. That beautiful chrome, they are prone. Some of them are very prone to chrome flaking, but an amazing set of toys, and there's not a bad one in them. They're all stunning. Like Waspinator upsets me that we never got him on the show in this form. But I'd love to see him. Waspinator's Transmetal is an absolute incredible toy. There's none of them being bad. I say that and then think, well, but so is he. So is he. So is he. Track Dinobot 2.
I'm not a fan of Pterosaur. There we go. That's one I don't like.
Oh man, it's going to upset you because Pterosaur is one of my absolute favorites. I think it's an amazing toy.
Maybe it's because I haven't played with it enough. Let's have a quick go at the ones that aren't from the show. Actually, no. Let's touch on Dinobot. Dinobot 2, although he's Transmetals 2 in this. So he's actually more connected to next year's line than this year's line. Dinobot has the best arc in the show. His turn from Predacon to Maximal, and then where that heads in the show. I'm not going to go into spoilers. I've decided, but there's a episode that is done so well that it is genuinely heartbreaking.
It is. It really is. It really is.
Yeah. So he's amazing, and he's got some really good gimmicks in the toy. But I think we'll touch a bit more on him next time. The Fusors, they're all bonkers. They look amazing. It's a piranha wasp. It's an iguana thing. And Torka, who's what? He's a bull and he's an elephant, isn't he? He's an elephant and orca. Yeah. Brilliant. Bonkers. Who came up with these ideas? They're amazing and completely and utterly mental. Let's move on to Mega Class. Now, and Ultra Class for that matter. Mega Class was just, it's sort of equivalent to Voyager Class now, I suppose. Maybe a little bit less, sort of in between. So you had Transmetal Megatron, who was amazing. He had the incredible ability to turn into a roller skating, hoverboarding, gets out of his hips. Amazing. And it's the first Beast Wars Megatron that has two hands.
Yeah,
because he holds his tail rather than having it as his actual tail.
Beautiful colours on him. The purple on Transmetal Megatron is gorgeous.
And as telegraphed at the beginning of season 2, Optimus Prime comes with his own inbuilt space surfboard, because that's what you want as a leader of the Maximals. Scavenger, who is almost Inferno but not quite. I have got less to say about him. He's another ant, but not as good as Inferno. And that's that. And then we come to the Ultra Class, Depth Charge, and Rampage, who we are not going to talk about now for reasons. And finally, it's Optimal Optimus. We've already spoken to him about him a little bit in the when we were talking about the show. He is what happened to Optimus Primal when he took upon the spark of the original Optimus Prime. He is absolutely glorious, huge,
Yeah.
fun to pose. All of his fingers move, which is amazing for toys, even today, apart from third-party ones. He has what, four modes? I mean, they're all
Four
there.
modes, four modes.
Four modes. Yeah, it's a little. They get a little dicey towards. Well, to be completely honest, I don't really like any of his modes apart from bot mode, because the gorilla mode is really.
Squish down, just
Yeah,
a squish down.
it's just a bit shoddy. And then the other two modes are questionable. I think the
What a fun toy! Like
oh, he's amazing.
it's genuinely. I remember getting it. You've got missiles, you've got sounds, you've got chrome, like unbelievable amount of chrome. You've got the armor kind of bits that pop off his wrists. It's I don't remember it being crazy money. I remember getting it, and I was a student at the time, so it can't have been crazy money, but it was an experience and a half getting that. I remember seeing it on the shelf and being like, oh, I'm going to own this toy. It's outstanding.
So good. I bought right. So I bought him in America when I was on holiday on there in the break between the first and second year at university. Went with my not then wife and a couple of friends, and I bought Opt Optimus for my best mate because at that time he was collecting Maximals and I was collecting Predacons. This is pre me getting very Optimus Prime. But I bought him, kept him in his box, and brought him all the way back to the UK and gave him to him, and then we had a good play. But I also bought another figure when I was over there. But we'll talk about that in a minute. And this is technically next year, but it counts. But yeah, no, he's a great figure. He's amazing. He's just does so much. He's so much fun to play with. They've brought out various different versions of him, and the different versions of him that they've brought out since, they're the same. They do all the same stuff. They haven't. I don't think anyone has improved upon him.
No,
The recent Hasbro release is the same. Doesn't do anything different. And some of the third party ones, they're just either slightly upscaled or maybe a little bit more posable. But
yeah,
other than that, it's just such a good toy.
yeah. The,
Anyway,
the Transart one, the colors on it are beautiful.
oh yeah,
Um, it just it just tweaks it enough that it's similar to the original,
yeah.
but it's its own thing in the same time. But beautiful, beautiful. The original's just such a great toy for a figure that's, so many years old. Is ridiculously good still.
It is. Oh, it's 26 years old, this figure. It's bonkers. I think having seen the toy before the episode where he gets created, because I saw the shows a lot later than the toys. He I didn't quite understand why he became orange. And also, it would have been nice if, as he took on the aspect of Optimus Prime, his other alt modes were a little bit more G1 primey.
Fine.
But these
I
are
agree with that. Agree with
very
that.
minor niggles. Right. So that's it for the toys this year. A nice bumper crop. And all of them. I think there's no toys in that line that I would say I don't like that, apart from Pterosaur. I wasn't quite so keen on. But yeah. Anyway, let's move on to our top bots of the year. Moff. Wait,
All right,
sure does
you're
the slides
first.
in. Is it me first? It is me first. Rampage. You could probably guess who we're going to pick because we've missed them out so far. Again, I bought this in America. I know exactly where and when I bought him, and I played with him so much. I got him straight out of the box on the Greyhound coach between New York and Philadelphia, and was playing with him whilst we were subjected to Cutthroat Island on a giant TV. Well, I giant TV, tiny TV, doesn't matter. He is such a fun figure. He looks amazing. He's got a core robot that's super posable. He's got this gigantic backpack of legs that's just wicked. His weapon is an automatically firing three-prong Gatling missile launcher, which also fires when you have him in tank mode. His crab mode is it's just huge. It's imposing. It looks amazing, and those claws are awesome. And he's got a little grabby mouth. And then his tank mode, he's got a rubber tread that goes round all of the
proper rubber
wheels
tread.
that are just sort of poking out all over the place in the other modes, but also subtly. And it does go round. If you get it on right, it does all go round, and his missiles fire. I could talk about him more, and I won't because
his character on the script. His character on the show, like the part of, and I think at the end of the when we go into next week's, we'll probably highlight some of our our kind of highlights throughout the show. But the arc between Protoform X to obviously become Rampage and Depth Charge is just, I loved it.
We're gonna have to move on to Depth Charge right now.
Yes. Oh. Depth Charge is my favourite. It's the irony of this us picking both the same class but the opposite toys.
Yeah,
I could have picked a better toy. This is one of my absolute favourite Beast Wars toys. This is the year where I am more complete on the year than any other. I am literally missing 2 toys from the full of this year's toys. This is by far one of the absolute best. I showed it to my youngest the other day for the first time. We transformed it, showed him the rub sign, and we were he just was like, this is great fun. He had such a fun bit with it. As we kind of gun that's a kind of small fish as well, just beautiful. The colours on them are just stunning. The other bit we never talked about with the Transmetals, that they have their name on them, because in case they forget
yeah, very G2, very G2.
Isn't it? It's weird. But an absolute beautiful toy and a huge toy. Like, really, these two, the pictures don't do them justice for the colours, for the chrome, also for the size. In hand, these things are outstanding and just fun to transform. Like all this line is just fun, in my opinion.
So much fun. Right, well, that just about brings us to the end of this week's exciting journey through 1998. Depth Charge and Rampage, as we said, such amazing, fun toys. If you ever get a chance to pick them up, or you have them already, just grab them off your shelf or go and buy one and just give them a little bit of a play. I mean, Depth Charge with his disc launching amazingness, and he carries a fish and his own tail as a weapon. They're amazing. But anyway, wrap this up. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please do remember to like and subscribe and watch us every week. If you haven't watched us on previous episodes, go back and give them a look. And of course, you can listen to us on your favorite podcast system. So thank you very much. I have been Oddimus Prime.
And I've been Plain Time Moff. Thank you.
We will see you next time, which is probably sooner than you think. Bye.